So I'll go to some lengths to reduce the distance however I can. And that doesn't, there are limits. I don't, these drivers I was with hang out in bars in East Africa, for example, hang out in bars where they're served by women who are available for sex, for money. And the women had two thoughts about me. He's obsessed with AIDS because that's all he really wants to talk about, ultimately, and he appears to think we all have it, which is really an unfortunate presumption. But why else would he be asking so much about it? And he's really stingy because he doesn't want to pay for sex. In fact, he doesn't want to have sex at all. So he's a real weirdo. And so I could have acted differently and had a smoother, perhaps in some ways even more enjoyable experience in some of these places. But you have to draw your own lines. And you, to approach your question a different way, I think Bill would agree with me that people everywhere, most people like to talk about themselves, and few people are often asked about themselves in depth by someone who seems to think it's important and who will write down answers. And writing it down can be a problem. Bill was just in Mexico, whereas things have changed a bit since I wrote my book Coyotes. It's not Kansas anymore in a lot of Mexico with the drug wars going on, and just asking a question can scare people to death right now. But that's not true in lots of places, and if you ask carefully and you don't ask abruptly and you ask with a sense of respect, and you're willing to spend time, I find people will usually talk to me. I think most of my travel was since 9/11, and people's positions against Americans, I think, have hardened in many parts of the world since then. And there was a day in Peru, I was waiting for this gigantic truck jam to unclog on a muddy pass. And I took a picture of a blue morpho butterfly that had landed on my knee. I had a plastic camera I'd bought in Puerto Maldonado, and this was the most beautiful butterfly I'd ever seen, and there it was on my knee. And I took a picture, and a guy came up and sat down next to me and told me that if it had been 15 years ago or whatever he said, and people in this village had seen me taking pictures of butterflies, I'd be hanging by those trees right now. I thought, oh, that's not a very nice thing to say, and but it kind of goes along with the Osama bin Laden T-shirts I saw in some towns. There are people who feel we are a very bad country, and that he is their champion. And I got into some conversations with some teenagers where I expressed my belief that he was not their champion. They were not Muslim, for one thing, and sure, there are a lot of people who don't like Americans, but also I think also as an American by yourself, you're a different kind of fish, maybe than an American with some gigantic profile or presence. Do you agree with this? Have you?
Yeah. I mean, it's true that you can get engaged depending on where you are and what the circumstances might be, but I found myself sometimes engaged as an American, and on U.S. foreign policy or whatever. But that's usually with intellectuals. I mean, somebody who, or kind of sort of village intellectuals, not somebody who's a professor someplace. They'll understand that you're just you and you'll have your opinions, but somebody who kind of expects you to want to argue the American side of some question as if there is a single American side. But that's relatively rare. It depends on where you are in the world. But in general, and the more humbly you arrive, like laying on the back of a truck on a pile of wood or something, the less you're taken for a representative of imperial power. And I also tend to travel kind of low profiles, just riding buses all over Mexico, and people kind of take you more at face value when you arrive more modestly.
Thank you for your careful attention. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you to Bill Finnegan and Ted Conover. They're both going to stick around. If you have any other questions, come on up. The book is called The Roots of Man. Thank you all for coming tonight. Upcoming events are at strandbooks.com. Thank you.